What's up, guys? So today I'm going to give my honest thoughts on eFootball 25. I could have uploaded this a week ago, but I wanted to give more time to the game because I usually feel there's a honeymoon period where people, whenever the new game comes out, like really enjoy it and kind of notice the more animations and think the game's fluid. And then after a week or two, people kind of, their opinion changes a little bit and they start noticing the flaws. So I wanted to avoid that in my review, so that's why I've left it for a little while. This video is intended to be something you kind of listen along to. There's not going to be too much on screen that's relevant. There will be instances where I pull up clips just to demonstrate a few key things, but for the most part, it's kind of serving like a podcast. I'll also be referencing the opinions of two people I really respect in the community because they've kind of done something similar to this and given their thoughts, and that'll kind of spark a discussion because, to be honest, I mostly agree with them on every point, which is something that's very rare. Usually I'm kind of someone who disagrees with or goes against the crowd. So if everyone or most people can agree on the problems with the game, it kind of does show that it's just kind of been botched by Konami, and there is definitely problems, and it's not just a matter of taste. So we're going to start off talking about passing, defending, shooting, all the kind of aspects of the game. And we'll start off with passing, because this is actually something that I think Konami have done a very good job on. Back in eFootball 24, in the lead up to eFootball 25, people would join my stream and ask me, what am I excited for eFootball 25, or what do I want them to add? So the only thing I would say is I don't really want them to touch the game. I just want them to add the manual pass trigger option that used to be in PES. So you used to be able to hold L2 and force your player through manual passes where you determine the exact direction and power of the pass. And the idea behind that was, with that suggestion, I didn't have confidence that they'd be able to improve passing because it's something that's not been great in PES for years. PES 21, even back then, I didn't think passing was great. I had to use manual pass all the time. So I really didn't have confidence that they'd make a passing system that was actually good, so I just wanted them to do that so I can just worry about it myself. Even if I have to use manual and maybe it's a slight disadvantage to my opponents, it takes more skill, I was happy to have that. But to be honest, in eFootball 25, I think they have improved passing quite a lot, and I'm not really saying to myself on stream, oh, I wish we had manual pass option there. There are a few key instances, particularly for little layoffs, flick passes, kind of stuff like that. Headers, I want manual pass back, but for the most part, through balls, I'm confident playing through balls now, which is very important. EAFC 24 was a game that it isn't great, but I still played it because you could actually pass into space. I still think the EAFC passing is a little bit better. You have a little bit more options, but I don't think the slight improvement the EAFC has in passing warrants it being considered a better game overall, because I think Konami have closed the gap quite significantly there. But the improvements of passing aren't just the passing itself, it's also to do with the defending. So the defending AI has been toned down, and the strength of AI defending is definitely less strong. I uploaded a defending tutorial about a week ago that goes into depth and explains why this is, because personally I was struggling with defending when the game first came out, because I was relying on bad habits that I had learned from eFootball 24. So essentially there was two key areas in eFootball 24 that you had to learn. Well, you didn't have to learn, but if you learned these kind of counterintuitive things, you'd become a better player. So the first one was, when you held matchup, it was very strong, and it kind of eliminated the inertia or the weight of your defender. So what it resulted in, and I talked about that in the defending tutorial, is when your opponent was dribbling at you, you could cover two sides at once. So you could manually cover, let's say, the left, and then if your opponent had dribbled the other way, you would also have that covered by just holding matchup, because the matchup would react straight away to what your opponent dribbled, and then it would cover you, and you could cover both sides. So they definitely toned that down, which is a great change. It was definitely very bad the way they had it before. So I'm glad they changed that, and I do think if we took that change in a vacuum, dribbling would be a lot stronger. We're going to talk about dribbling later and why I think it's worse in eFootball 25 compared to 24. But on that change alone, dribbling should be better. And then the other element of defending that they have improved, and it's linked to passing, is the passing logic is no longer tied into as strongly to where your defender is. So the way I explain this is, whenever you used to play a pass in eFootball 24, particularly a through ball, even if there was plenty of space to pick the pass into your player, the pass would always lock into the path of the defender. And it was so frustrating, and it's why you couldn't pass into space, and it's why I really just wanted the manual pass option added. They've definitely toned that down. The passes seem to just follow the kind of more direct route to the player, and they just kind of make more sense. There's still issues at times, but look, they're never going to get passing perfect, so I'm pretty happy with where passing is at the moment. In eFootball 24, the bad habit I had was when I would defend, it looked very chaotic, but there was a structure to it. A lot of the time, when my opponent was counter-attacking me, let's say we had me outnumbered or we were man for man, I would, if my AI defenders were covering a passing lane, sometimes I would take them out of that passing lane and open up the winger, say, for the through ball. And what would happen is the winger is completely free. My opponent thinks, okay, my Neymar on the left here is completely free. I'm going to pass it into him. And then they press pass. But because I knew that the way the passing logic worked is it would it would keep a very close eye on where the defender was and keep that path in mind. It would pass it into my defender, even though there's 15 yards of space to the side of the defender the pass could be played into, and then he'd be through and goal. But they've toned that down as well. There's still slight elements of that, but I don't think it's actually a problem. Because if you don't, it's not unrealistic now and drastic. There's still that element of baiting the passes, but that's kind of a high skill level or a high skill gap kind of thing in the game, which is ideally what most of the changes or systems in the game should be. It should be around skill based because it's skill based matchmaking. So if you're not a skilled player, you'll play against players your own skill and you'll have fun. So that's kind of the two major improvements to the game that I think Konami have implemented with eFootball 25. The next two are shooting and goalkeepers, who are just linked together. You can't have one system without the other. This one isn't like a positive or a negative explicitly, but I do have thoughts on it. So in my opinion, long shots are too easy in eFootball 25, which isn't a problem in of itself, but goalkeepers are kind of stronger, I feel, one-on-one with the striker rather than a long shot. So what I mean is, when you take a long shot with a player like Eto, you'll put it in the corner, it'll go in the back of the net. Keeper technically probably could save it, but they don't. Don't have a major issue with that. But what I'm finding is, if I'm one-on-one with the keeper, he's more likely to put the shot down the middle of the goal, right at the goalkeeper. So there's kind of a disconnect there. The way a football game should work is, if you're one-on-one with the keeper, it should pretty much be a guaranteed goal, except like as long as you don't majorly mess it up. If you do everything kind of right, it should be a guaranteed goal unless your opponent uses his goalkeeper movement and predicts the corner you're going to shoot into. And then what that allows is the mind games and the skill gap. And then if your opponent chooses the bottom right corner and you can react or anticipate it and you go bottom left, you have a guaranteed goal. If he doesn't react, if you go near post, pretty much it should save. That's one problem with EAFC, by the way. You can shoot near post and it'll be a goal more 9 times out of 10. So the goalkeeper movement just doesn't even make sense in that game, considering you can't save the near post. But the problem is, when you're one-on-one with the keeper, even if you put it into the corner, they'll put it down the middle. So that's one issue. And then there's another issue on the defending side. Whenever I'm using manual goalkeeping now, if I predict the right corner, the amount of times the ball just goes through my goalkeeper and goes in the back of the net is really frustrating. Again, in my head, now this is just my opinion, feel free to disagree, but I feel if it doesn't really matter what rating your keeper is, if you move the keeper into the corner your opponent's shooting in, it should be a near guaranteed save. And the reason for that is because if you move your keeper into one corner, you're leaving 80% of the goal completely open for a tap in, and that's where the skill gap is. I'm willing to risk leaving 80% of this goal wide open because I have a feeling you're gonna put it into this 20% of the goal, and then if I get it wrong, I get punished. You put it in the other corner. You have the patience, you have the composure, and you get your goal. So I think there's a big disconnect between the goalkeeper strength in regards to one, long shots versus how when it's close to the goal, and then two, just manual keeping doesn't seem to be as rewarded as it used to be. But that's kind of something that's in the middle there, in terms of is it a positive or a negative, because I don't think the long shots being as strong as they are is necessarily an issue. I just think there should be more consistency. But that might result in just too many goals, so they might have to tone long shots down again. I do think long shots are better than they were in eFootball 24 though. I feel like long shots are terrible in eFootball 24, and that needs to be changed. So overall, I guess it is a improvement, but there is some issues to be there. Another thing that this isn't an issue with the game compared to eFootball 24. It's just something they didn't add to my notes. Is trigger runs. So manual pass and trigger runs are kind of something that's linked to my head. Back in PES, they don't have trigger runs in the game, unfortunately. So that's a big issue. But the thing is, the PES implementation of trigger runs was very poor. If your player had no stamina and they were running in behind, they were running, let's say, 60 speed, we'll just use an arbitrary number. And then if you did a trigger run, you wanted to tell, okay, we want the striker to I want to make sure he's making a run If they had no stamina, they'd go down to a snail's pace and start walking. So it didn't make any sense, because if you didn't do a trigger run, they were quite fast, and then if you manually triggered it, they would slow down. So look, if they fix that, I'm very happy to have trigger runs in the game. If they don't fix that, I don't want them. They're pretty much useless in my head, because this is something that Pedsep talks about in his notes that we're going to look at later. The stamina system is pretty much irrelevant in this game. I never look at stamina when I'm building a player. Even if a player has 95, 99 stamina, I don't have any confidence that they're going to have stamina by the end of the game. And even if they have no stamina, it's not an issue, because players can still run around like really, really fast. The only things low stamina really has a negative impact on is sometimes you won't get to a loose ball as quickly, or a first time pass and stuff like that. But late in the game, it's such a small window of the match, it's not a major issue. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the worst thing that Konami have ruined with this game, and it is the auto shielding / physical contact changes, basically the physical overhaul they've made to the game. This system pretty much unanimously is unliked. I don't really hear anyone talk about how this is a good system. I did at the first couple days hear a bit like people saying, "Oh, I think this system is good." I think it looks good, like physically, like the animations are nice. It does add a more physical, visceral element to the game, which was, I think, a problem with eFootball 24. There wasn't, it felt very like a video game in the sense that there's no like physical push and pull and stuff. So the animations are very nice, I'm not going to deny that, but I think in terms of it is a game, I'm putting inputs with a controller to, you know, have something happen on the pitch, and my player decides to get locked into a shielding battle, or just start manually shielding, automatically shielding when the player's behind them and I can't move. I actually have some clips of it. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. If we get the ball with Mateus here, now I have the trainer on. You can see I have the circle around my player. You can see what I'm doing with the inputs. So what's happening is I get the ball with Mateus. There's a player behind me. Look, I turn around here because I know this player is going to come get the ball. I have to shield. I have to put my body in between my opponent. But look, I'm getting stuck here. You can see the arrow, sorry, the little play button's in the way. I'll let it play out. You can see that with my controller, I'm moving my player around. I'm trying to get him to free up, but he's getting stuck. Look, he's getting completely stuck. He's not responding to any of my inputs, and he's just getting completely stuck there. And it just makes no sense to me, because I didn't tell Mateus to shield the ball, all right? I've had a few people say to me, but that's realistic. If a player is behind you, they can, like, you know, there has to be a physical element. But I don't mind if I have another clip here with Berezi, I think. It might be this one. Yeah, it's this one. I have another clip of Rezi here. I don't mind if when I try exit this kind of shielding animation, I'm at a disadvantage now, and you know I'm weaker. And if I run and my opponent keeps applying pressure, I'm likely to fall over and lose the ball. Right, but at least my player is listening to my input and moving in the direction I'm telling him to move him. At this point here, when the ball gets stuck in this shield animation, I'm not even playing the game anymore. I'm literally watching and waiting for something to happen. Like I get the ball with Berezi here. You can see I'm trying to go forward, and then I can't go forward because I'm getting stuck in the animation. And I just think it's a terrible system. Someone in my stream, Ryan, has been telling me there's something you can do with, if you load up a shot and then super cancel or something, you can kind of break out of that animation. To be honest, this doesn't happen extremely often where you get that stuck. It might happen once a game. So I haven't got enough time to kind of implement that and see it, because it takes a lot of thinking to... You know, I've been playing football games for 15 years and this never happens where automatically I'm getting stuck. So my muscle memory is every time I move my player with the analog stick, he's going to move and respond to my input. So it's going to take me time to see if that works. So if it does work, I'll make a video on it to let you guys know. But it's such a poor system, because in eFootball 24, I thought shielding was very good. We had it on L2. If you wanted to, you could shield when the player's behind you, and you could keep them off you. And then the disadvantage of it was the shielding always pretty much worked. It didn't matter if your player was weak or strong. I don't have a major problem with that. Watch any elite dribbler, Hazard, Messi, they can hold off the stronger defenders even if they're like when they're behind them. I don't have a major issue with that. But the downside was if you press shield, you're basically giving up protection of the ball, because your player can't protect the ball with his feet and also protect the ball with his back from the player behind them. So essentially what I'm saying is, if you were to shield when a player was behind you and there was no other defenders near you, it was fine, it would work. But if there was a defender in front of you and a player behind you, if you shielded from the player behind you, the player in front would just take the ball. Good system, perfect. It added layers to the shielding and it made it appropriate. At the moment, there was also another thing you could do, and this is another thing that players do in real life. When they're sprinting, if the defender's behind them, they obviously slow down. But the thing is, that's kind of a good thing, because if they speed up again, if they try sprint out, the defender's no longer stuck behind them, and they can kind of speed up and go around again. Whereas if they stay behind, stuck to your back, they can't get around you. They're kind of stuck behind you, and they're going at your pace. I thought that was a good system. It had a lot of depth dribbling, and I'm just really annoyed that Konami have added this auto shielding, and it's terrible. I'm just jumping in here for the people who are just listening to the video. For the next minute or two, I'm just going to show some clips from eFootball 24, and just showing how the old dribbling systems worked. For the most part, the sprint dribbling things, some of them could still apply, but you just be worried that physical engagements will get started and slow the player down, and you can't do any more of the inputs. And then for the finesse dribbling stuff, yeah, most of that just doesn't apply to eFootball 25 anymore. It's just been removed since eFootball 24. I don't have a problem with this new physical system when the players are side by side. I had a clip, I couldn't find it, apologies. I know there's 2 clips somewhere on my PlayStation off the top of my mind where Maradona is running with the ball, and so is Saviola, a different clip. And the defender is beside them, and they're getting into a physical tussle, and I kind of do lose control of the ball. Like, I can't tell my player to dribble out of it, and they lose the ball. I don't have major issues with that, because we're side by side. Like, if someone's shoulder to shoulder with you, you don't really have as much freedom anymore. Like, you should kind of be stuck. But I don't think you should be completely stuck. But if that was the only kind of instance of your input not listening to you, I wouldn't have a major problem. It's particularly the ones where where the player's behind you. In EAFC, I play FIFA every year pretty much. Like, I've been playing it as well for the last week a lot, and I'm noticing, I think the physical system in EAFC just works. It's very simple. It just seems to work. My strong players, I notice if a defender comes up to them, particularly my team of the week, Boniface, the defender isn't going to get the ball off him for a couple seconds. Like, he's going to be able to hold them off. And then in my weak players, if my weak player is getting pressured, like, physically, I can still move him around, use his inputs, but he's going to be at a disadvantage. So, you know, if no one's near you and you move left to right, it'll be perfect. But if there's a defender kind of in a physical engagement with you, when you move left to right, you might be a bit off balance. It's a very simple system, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be, once you're in a physical engagement, the inputs are done now. You're just waiting for this physical engagement animation to finish out, and then whoever wins, wins, and there's no further user input required. You're just watching. So, overall, I think that's a terrible system. Another point to that actually is, I done a video on my best players I've used in eFootball, and the 2 best players I used in eFootball were Maradona and World Cup Messi. World Cup Messi, with the new, because physical contact is more important now, which was a problem in eFootball 24. The physical contact stat was pretty much useless, so it did need to be changed. It needed to be changed similar to the FIFA system, not the system they implemented, however, but it did need to be changed. So with physical contact being more important, people keep having this idea that the World Cup Messi is going to be really good now, and he's going to be a lot better than he was before, but he's not. He's a lot worse than he was before. Same with Maradona and same with Romario, because while Romario and Maradona don't have crazy physical, the same concept still applies, because these are the players, all right? There's very few players that can do this in football, but they can take on 1, 2, or 3 defenders at once when they're surrounded. Another player would be like Iniesta. These players, like, if you look at the clips now, see that there, like that kind of area where there's just, you're surrounded by defenders, but they're still able to wiggle out. That's not as effective anymore, because any time a defender is behind you and gets on top of you, your player just stops moving, and you won't respond to your inputs anymore, even if he has good physical contact. The problem with the system isn't that my players are weak, they start shielding and they get shoved off the ball. It doesn't matter. If they're strong, we're going to have the same issue, because if they're strong, they're not going to get pushed over, but they can't control the ball anymore. If you tell them to move the ball, they won't. So, look, I won't go too long about that, but that is just a terrible system, and I really hope they just have to remove it. They've just messed it up. Like, either they can try fix it, but I don't have any confidence they will. Back in PES 21, we had auto shielding by name, but it really wasn't automatic, because the way it would trigger it is, instead of pressing L2 to shield, you would just stop putting any inputs in your controller. So that's effectively pressing a button. It's another way of pressing a button. Just not pressing any buttons is another way of you telling the game what you want to do. I thought the system was okay. I didn't have major issues with it. There was few instances where it would, not work as I intended, but overall I thought it was an okay system. This system here is just not good. I don't actually even understand. Am I supposed to, if I want my player to shield, not press any inputs? Because I did try it for the first few days and it just didn't work. So I just don't have any confidence in it. Whereas in PES 21, I would have confidence in, if I didn't press any button, my player would automatically shield, and I had confidence they would actually shield effectively. And then if once I felt like I was done with shielding, I could press the controller buttons again and start moving. So yeah, that's the major issue, and that's the biggest issue with the game. The other issue with the game is finesse dribbling. I said in my first impressions, so this isn't an exact quote, but it's pretty close. I said the new finesse dribbling system is going to be better for 95% of players, but it's going to be worse for the remaining 5% of players that use the old finesse dribbling system. And what I mean by that is, we already had finesse dribbling in eFootball 24. You just didn't have to press L2 to it. You had to move the left analog stick very slightly. The very first video I uploaded on my channel was talking about this because no one ever used it. It was such a small thing. It was a very hardcore kind of player element, but not in terms of the sense that like the players that were high ranked were doing it. Like the high ranked players never do this. It was the people who kind of wanted to just use all the mechanics in the game to the highest level and express themselves in the pitch. So I would honestly say 95% of people might even be under. It could have been 99% of people weren't using it, and that is Konami's fault because one, they don't communicate some of the systems in the game well enough, but more importantly for finesse dribbling, it was very difficult to do, and it was needlessly very difficult to do. My video, the first video I uploaded, is me using finesse dribbling with the DualSense Edge. So the first maybe year I played the game, I never used finesse dribbling. I just forgot about it, really. Realistically, I just forgot about it. And then I started talking to a guy on Twitch called Showstuff, who I mentioned in that video, and he was telling me about finesse dribbling, and I started seeing the benefits of it. But the thing is, with a default controller, it was very hard to do. You had to move the left analog stick like 10% of the way, and like it may be like 20%. It's very hard to do in a game. In the practice, in the training ground, for me anyway, some people actually say to me it's not that hard to do, but for me it was very hard to do with a default controller. I can do it in the training ground just fine, but when I'm dribbling, it's very difficult. Then I got the DualSense Edge. I can change the sensitivity of the sticks, and voila, it's not that difficult to do. It still requires a lot of skill, a lot of finesse, but it's still possible. So when they announced these changes to finesse dribbling, I kind of knew straight away what was going to happen. It was going to be easier for 95% of people, which is good, by the way. Like, there shouldn't be something in the game really as fundamental as finesse dribbling that is very hard to do for 95% of people. There's something like the double touch shot cancel, where you load up a double touch, press shoot, and super cancel it before it cancels the double touch animation. It basically just ball rolls. It does like a flick. Something like that, yeah. 95% of people don't need to be able to do that. But something like finesse dribbling, it's a core system in the game. It needs to be more accessible. But the problem I anticipated was that by making it on the left stick, it would be too easy, and it's a very strong system to do. So I felt like it was going to be overpowered, or alternatively, they were going to nerf it. They nerfed it. Essentially, the finesse dribbling you can do now is terrible. People have been asking me to make dribbling tutorials for the longest time. I said I will make them in eFootball 25 because they might change dribbling, and I don't want to make a tutorial now and then it'd be outdated in a month or two. So I was looking forward to eFootball 25 and making dribbling tutorials. But with the new system, I just don't think there's a tutorial to be made, really. Like, I just don't think there's any depth in this finesse dribbling. I'll try find clips to put on the screen now. But with the new system, there's a lot less animations. You can't do finesse dribbling from a sprint. So if you're sprinting in the new system and then you want your next touch to be a finesse dribbling touch, you can't do it unless you use R2 to sprint, and you sprint like 20% of the way. And I think that's just too harsh. It, like, honestly, you probably shouldn't be able to do it from 100% sprint, but I think the window for that needs to be improved. So instead of being only able to finesse dribble from the next touch after sprinting at like 20%, it should be like 60%, because that's, if you watch like any time someone dribbles these finesse touches, like, it's usually speed up, then the defender comes to the contact and there's a slowdown, and then if the player's a good dribbler, they can flick the ball left, right, back, forward to bypass the defender, and then you can continue again. Whereas at the moment, it just feels like it feels like a gimmick to me. I obviously I don't understand it as much as I probably should, which is also why this review has taken such a long time, or haven't made any video on finesse dribbling, really, because I'm someone who I don't like to. I don't want to blame the game. I want to blame myself first, but I'm getting to the point now where I really don't see what I'm supposed to be doing different, and the system feels just very poor. So yeah, there's a lot less animations. I think it's more of a gimmick. One thing about the finesse dribble in the new system is you always face the goal when you do it. So you can't finesse dribble with your back to goal. If you do finesse dribble and your back's to goal, your player will turn around and then do a finesse dribble touch. So it's just a lot less depth. Another thing is that, sorry, I just had to gather my thoughts there. Another thing is that I think the old system made the most sense in terms of the controller input, because finesse dribbling it's in the name, it should be something that you have to do with finesse. It made sense that you had to control, instead of just, oh, I'm going to press a button now and instantly activate like crazy good dribbling. You had to be kind of tactful and finessed with the way you were holding the controller and what you were doing with it. And you can hold the button and do this crazy dribbling. That would have been if the same animations carried over. But obviously Konami knew that was going to be a problem, that if people could just hold the button and start dribbling like at a top level, which is by just holding the button, they couldn't have that in the game. So they nerfed the animations and they made it a lot worse. So I don't know, like that's one of the biggest problems with the game. Now we're going to go to the other people's opinions that I kind of respect, and particularly Daedalus, who is actually someone I mentioned in that first video I uploaded. So he's kind of given up on the game now. He's, if I kind of read it for you, while creating an analysis video on eFootball 25's gameplay, particularly focusing on movement and dribbling, I realized that I no longer have any affection for the game, and these don't see much point in continuing to play. I know entirely where he's coming from. The depth in dribbling has 99% been removed, and it's the two factors of the physical contact changes and the finesse dribbling changes. If they had just changed finesse dribbling like they have it, like if finesse dribbling was how it is now, but they didn't change the physical aspect of the game, I wouldn't care that much, honestly. I think there'd still be a lot of depth to dribbling, there'd be less depth, but it would still be enough, and I would still have that kind of addicting kind of aspect of the game where I can keep pushing myself to kind of do greater and greater things. But the way dribbling is now, and this is what Daedalus is saying, it feels very dumbed down, and the skill ceiling is reached very easily. I don't think I've reached the skill ceiling, but I feel like I'm very close to it now, whereas before in eFootball 24, I did think the skill ceiling was like within reach, but I think I was quite a good bit off it. So I think like just the way what they've done is just such a shame, and I don't know if it was intentional from Konami or if it's something they just didn't anticipate. Like I really don't think they did this, other than what I said about nerfing the animations for finesse dribbling. I think they did that on purpose just because they knew if they had it on the button, how broken it could be. But I do think that the physical things, I don't think I don't know if it's a glitch or not, where my players just don't react anymore. So if we scroll down a little bit further, he says, there are likely various opinions about these gameplay changes, which, by the way, I don't care if someone has different opinions. Like, these are your opinions, my opinion. Like, I'm open to people saying, I like the new finesse dribbling system, which I agree, for 95% of people, I think it's there. But we scroll down a bit further and he says, like, why couldn't they have just offered a control system for, if you want to use L2 to finesse dribble, there you go. But if you want to use the old system, you still can. Because that's, like, you're adding more options. One thing I like about EAFC is they have a timed finishing system. You don't have to use it. You can turn it off. Because some people, when they, get stressed, they double tap shoot, and they just spam shoot, spam shoot, spam shoot. And that will, if you have time finishing on, just result in a red time shot and it'll go wide. Whereas if you don't want it, and you can just turn it off, and that won't be a factor. Same with player locks. There's a few different defending settings, different tiers. Different pass assist settings. Obviously, eFootball has that as well. But there's a lot more in EAFC. There's a lot more respect given to the player in terms of the choices and how they want their controller to, they want their controller to work in the game. Whereas I think Konami are like a one size fits all people. I mean, I'm not going to get into it here today, but like the pass assist levels are very similar nowadays. It used to be back in the day, pass assist 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Like they used to be. Pass assist 1 and 2 were quite similar. Pass assist 3 was its own thing, and then pass assist 4 was fully manual. I've tried using pass assist 3 in this new update. It feels pretty much the exact same as pass assist 2, and I haven't tried pass assist 1 yet. So like they've done that down as well. But just give us the options to use it. Or alternatively, the same way I rectified the issue with my DualSense Edge, why didn't they just change the sensitivity? So with the DualSense Edge, this is how it works. So this is a default controller. This is the controller everyone has. When you wanted in the old system to do finesse dribbling, you had to move the controller to about here, which is very difficult. Most of the time, what would happen is you would try move it here, but you would actually just move it here, about 50% here. The way with the DualSense Edge you can rectify it is if you put it on steady and then go curve adjustment 5. What would happen is, or sorry, maybe it's -5. Sorry, it was precise actually, not steady. What you would do is you'd put the curve up all the way like that, and then what would happen is if you move the analog stick out to here, The white line is what I'm doing in real life with my controller, but the blue line is what my controller is reading and then telling eFootball to do. So instead of removing this dribbling, why didn't they just change the sensitivity in the game? So instead of having to finesse dribble with 10% of your analog stick, you could just do it with like 50% out here. Like for me, like it was such an intuitive system. It just made the most sense, and like it was honestly in my eyes like a genius. Like it should have been just this is the standard for every time someone makes a football game now. If you want to slow down your dribbling, you don't press a button. You just move the left stick such a little bit. So that's the major issue with finesse dribbling. But again, it's such a small part. I don't have the major issue with that. My major issue was with the physical contact changes. So it's definitely very sad to see Daedalus, move on from the game. I understand entirely. There's just a lack of depth now. I'm not at the point though where the game is unenjoyable for me. I still enjoy this game. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't play it. I didn't really play PES 21, 22. Just played 11v11 and co-op. I still enjoy this game, but it's just a shame to see something that the type of people I respect, who their opinion on the game also agreeing with me that Konami had a good system, and like the thing is, people complain about a lack of content in this game. I agree wholeheartedly, but for me, and I say it in this comment I'm going to post here, the depth in dribbling for me compensated for a lot of that lack of content, because the content for me was in trying to reach the skill ceiling and improve myself. So we're going to send this comment off. That's kind of my major opinion on the dribbling. Another person whose opinion I greatly respect is PESEP, because he is, I think, like, honestly, he probably would have been the first streamer for PES. I mean, he's the first streamer I watched back in like 2015. I've been watching this guy for nearly a decade now, and I don't really agree with everything he says most of the time. But just different tastes. We agree on most of the part, but there's usually 10 or 20% that I wouldn't agree with him with. But to be honest, pretty much everything he says here in these bullet points, I agree with. Like speed burst, sharp touch, this is something that they've done effectively. I think it's a lot better now, and it is good. So that's a good thing. This was uploaded 9 days ago. So smoother gameplay or an illusion since it's faster gameplay. I think that's kind of linked into what I said at the very start of the video with the honeymoon phase. He says it's smoother, but he doesn't know for sure because it's a new game. It's a bit faster. He can't be 100% sure. His point on finesse dribbling, we agree. It's a dedicated button. I mean, I guess that's good, but it removed the opportunity for users to display their skill. So there's a downside there. Just give us the option. Then he agrees with me on the auto shield. He says auto shield not a fan, but when a manual function becomes auto/contextual, it shows where the future of the game is going, or maybe any function that makes mobile version difficult gets simplified or won't be added into the game, like trigger runs and manual pass functions. So that's two things also I want in the game. Also, the new physical play contextual shield causing a bug when the player gets stuck. Like, I don't know if it is a bug. I think for the first week I didn't think it was a bug. I've kind of come around on that opinion. I think it might be a bug. So if it's a bug and that gets fixed, I guess it's not a major issue. Like I think it's good, but I'm working off the assumption it's not a bug, and this is kind of what they want, because people have been saying to me the players are getting stuck in the shield because they're getting dragged back by the defender, but that's a foul. Like that's a foul, and it's a video game. If there's a way to remove as many fouls as possible, it should be done, because you're not like. I think people kind of miss the point of what a foul is. A foul is cheating, so you shouldn't be allowed to cheat. I'm not saying that they should remove fouls like from the game, but I'm just saying they should be as rare as possible. Like I don't remember exactly which FIFA it was, but there was a FIFA they changed it so you couldn't intentionally foul people as easy as before. It used to be that if they were true on goal, or you thought they were going to be a true on goal, you could just foul them and then be done. Then they changed it so if you're not going to get the ball with a tackle, you're likely to not even get the player. You're just going to miss, and then they're going to be true on goal. Except for penalties, they'd give penalties still. You would foul the player. They changed that, and I thought it was a great change. Now, they actually have added professional fouls into new FIFA, but that's a different kind of system. I'm talking about tackling. Yeah, but I think we're in agreement there. Refs gone bad again. To be honest, I think the refs have been bad for a while. Just they don't give penalties enough in eFootball. New method of reward and new rewards. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. Custom tactics still missing. This is something that if I'm so attached to finesse dribbling and that getting changed is a big impact on me. This is a big impact on Sepp. Sepp's whole kind of I guess selling point at the start was he just knew how every player style worked and every play style worked, and he used to do the simulated games. There used to be like sim divisions, so the same way as you were seeing in the gameplay in the background, you can simulate matches. There used to be divisions for that. He used to always do well on that. So it was like a cool like manager mode system in the game. But like we don't have back in PS21, we used to have fluid formation, so you can have a different formation for having the ball and not having the ball. Guess what? EAFC 25 has added that. And also we just had more depth in tactics like wing rotation. Place instruction used to be when you had the ball out wide, your striker would go out wide to allow you to space the dribble in the middle. Like instructions like that, we had false fullbacks. You can move the right backs into centre mid. That's what like Pep does, you know. Yeah, so much more tactical depth. EAFC 24 had more tactical depth than eFootball has, and then EAFC 25 actually overhauled their tactics and improved it. And it's obviously like way ahead of eFootball now. So even before EAFC had changed their tactics, they were ahead of eFootball. And the thing about PES was always seen as the tactical game, whereas FIFA was seen as the pick it up and play game. And it's just gone the opposite way. Like it's a shame to see. Unrealistic aggression and tireless stamina. I believe we talked about that a little bit earlier. And then, yeah, he's kind of talking now more about the reward system. So, like I said a few minutes ago, I didn't have a major issue with the lack of content around the game because the gameplay itself is more rewarding. Like, we have loads of content in the AFC, but I don't play it as much because the gameplay itself isn't as good. So the selling points between the games are EAFC has the content, eFootball has the gameplay. But with the dumbing down and dribbling, like, what's the selling point of eFootball now? I mean, I still think the gameplay is better, but EAFC, like, if they could change direction, they changed direction back in FIFA 17. FIFA 17 was the last good FIFA. They started making it less skill-based and more reliant on AI abusing game mechanics from FIFA 18 onwards. If they decide to go back on that and start going back to a fundamentals game, which they could do with UFL coming out, goals coming out, like, I don't see how on the console market eFootball even has a chance, because if they go back to FIFA 17 gameplay, with the content they have, like they there's no reason I'd play eFootball other than to play it every once in a while just for something fresh. But in terms of playing it every day or nearly every day, like I just don't see myself doing it. But to be honest, we're not at that point yet. EA are very unlikely to do that because I done my final project in university on it in my undergraduate. Their gameplay systems are designed to frustrate you to get you to spend. So they probably won't go back on that anyway. So it's a bit of a tangent there, but Sep does kind of round off this saying I have 50 plus bullet points, but I feel like who cares? I mean, I care. I think people watching care. So I actually left a comment on it, I think, as well. So hopefully, I would like to see Sep do a video like this because I think yeah, there's my comment. I'd like to see Sep do a video like this talking about it because I think when you're typing, you can't get as much out as quickly. Whereas if you just talk, you can add more nuance and stuff. So I'd like to see that from Sep. So if I go back to my notes, and see what else I have to talk about. I think it was just, yeah, lag. I never really face lag, but I am getting frame skips recently. Not a major issue, but it's just something I want to say. If you have lag, I empathise with you. I used to have lag 2 years ago. My win rate was like 50%. I didn't actually know I was lagging though. I thought the game was just bad. Then it fixed overnight and the game became a lot better. The next point I have is they're kind of linked. The content / rewards. Yeah, there's no I've already talked about it, but there's no external motivation to play football, really. There's 10 skill trainers a month, and then that's your division's done. So internal motivation would be because you enjoy the gameplay, and external motivation would be rewards. With the depth of dribbling, there was enough internal motivation to play the game for me to keep playing it. Something like Counter-Strike would be the same. There's no real external rewards, but internally, you can grind your rank, which you can do in eFootball, try rank up, and compete against the best, or just the fundamental gameplay itself, improve your own skill level. That's what's engaging about it. With the dumbing down of dribbling, like we're not there yet where there's no internal motivation for me to play the game, but we could get there eventually. I've been saying on stream, if they didn't improve passing and they were in dribbling like this, I probably wouldn't be playing the game right now. There's just be nothing there for me to do. The next point I have is the cost of packs. So it's not that the packs are terribly priced. I honestly think each legend is costing you 40 to 50 euro. I think that's not like egregious. I think it is like very high, but there's a microtransaction model. They're not trying to sell to everyone. They're trying to sell to the top 5 or 10% of people who are willing to pay. So I'm willing to pay in certain instances. But if we go to my recent legends, so if we look at the recent legends I've bought, the most recent legend I've bought is Maradona and Pirlo. And if I'm being honest, I only bought Maradona because I'm a streamer / YouTuber. If I didn't stream / make videos, I wouldn't have bought this Maradona. I don't know if I've scrolled by him. No, here it is. I wouldn't have bought them, but because I play this game a lot and it's a important part of my life now, I said let me just get the best version of Maradona, even if I already have a previous version. Before that, the player I would have bought would have been Bellingham. That was to make a video. I didn't buy the Messi and stuff because unfortunately, if I got that Messi and made a video on it, I wouldn't have made my money back. So I already had a version of Messi, so I didn't buy him to review. And then before that, the player I think it would have been Mateus. Yeah, so Mateus and Lamb. Okay, so yeah, over how many months is that? It's like 5 months. I've only bought two players. This is someone who's spent. If we go back further though, I've bought like loads of players before. The point I'm trying to make here is the game. People have been playing this game for years now. Our players don't reset. The packs on offer are terrible value for money because I already have versions of these players. Like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, a momentum dribbling Ronaldinho came out with a deco, and I can't even remember the last player. I already have a deco. I already have a Ronaldinho. This Ronaldinho was a sizable upgrade on my one. I didn't choose to go for it though because I could have spent €150 for a Ronaldinho with slightly better stats. In FIFA, people always buy cards with slightly better stats, but there's a reason for that. In FIFA, every time you win a game, you get something in return. You improve your division rivals rank, you improve your champions rank. In this, you don't get. What do you get? Once you get to Division 1, you're done in terms of rewards. Obviously, you can push rank, but you don't need +5 pace on Ronaldinho. It's not going to get you from top 1000 to top 500. It's not even going to get you from 510 to 509. Like it's such a minimal change. Like it's there's no reason for me to spend on this game now. I have 12,000 coins on the account in anticipation of the Hullet pack. So I probably will get the Hullet pack. But again, if I wasn't streaming or making videos, I wouldn't do it. And I'm not for sure getting the Hullet pack. Like if the Hullet pack comes out and he's not like that much better, I'd probably skip it. Same way I did with Ronaldinho, same way I did it for recent Mateus, for recent Czech, all these players. Like they're just not getting me to spend effectively, and I'm not like saying like, oh, Konami, I want to spend more money, like I want you to take all my money, but I'm just looking at it from their point of view. Like they're facing an issue here, with their let me collect my crazy rewards that change everything. They're facing an issue there. Another thing is though, like I do think recently I think they've noticed that a little bit because I don't know if I bought them on this account. I think I bought them on the other account to review. This Torres, like this type of stuff here, is in here. Oh, it's in the pack section. Like 500 coins for a Torres. We had another player recently. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. We need more packs like this. We had Paul Scholes for a 50-player pack. Like if Ronaldinho came out in a 50-player pack, I would have went for him because I know my upside from my potential downside is only €50, 5,000 coins. Whereas Ronaldinho could be the last player I get in my pack. If he's 150 players, then he's not worth it. So they need to honestly, I think they need to adjust how they're selling these packs because they backed themselves into a corner here. I said a while ago I recognized this was going to be an issue, and I said they messed up here. They should have had a system where if a player was out of season, they got penalties or stats. So let's look at my Ronaldinho. My Ronaldinho was like 2 years old now. I got him he's like the first player I bought, and I bought him with the intention of never really upgrading him because I knew the players would stay here forever and I wouldn't have to upgrade them. And there's been a couple of Ronaldinho since, and I haven't bothered upgrading. This guy's out of season. Essentially, like he's out of contract. I know they remove contracts, but he's out of season. I thought they should have just put a penalty every time eFootball 23 comes out, 24 comes out, 25 comes out. There's a -1 or 2 on each stat, and that would kind of push people to continue spending. But they can't do that now. If they do that now, people are going to boycott the game because they've just been kind of rug pulled and their expectations have been changed. But they should have done it from the start. So they backed themselves into a corner there, and Konami made a big mistake. Two last points I just want to make is if the gameplay is bad, which it isn't at the moment, but it could be, it doesn't mean the game's useless because 11v11 could come out and Master League could come out and slash edit mode. So back in PES 21, I said I don't like the game. I just played co-op 11v11 and edit mode slash Master League. What I'm saying there is we played actually an online Master League. We all went into edit mode, changed our teams. We had a whole transfer system. That was the most fun I've ever had in a football game. So the gameplay, I didn't like it, but because we were given the options as users to create our own kind of game modes with 11v11 or this online Master League, it added a lot of depth and a lot more meaning to the game because Konami can't deliver content that's engaging. They've always struggled with it. They used to have the match day system. I don't know if anyone remembers that from PES. That was really cool. Why not just add that back? Like, I think I'll just wrap it up here because I'm going to ramble on too long. So let me know your guys' thoughts. I'd really appreciate a discussion to be had. if I will read every comment. I might not reply to every comment just because I don't like replying to a comment with a half-assed attempt, but I don't have all day to reply to comments. So I will read everything, and if you join my stream and say, I'll probably say, oh yeah, I read your comment, and then I'll talk about it through talking, but to text, typing, it takes me a bit longer. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts, just overall, just so people aren't confused. Still enjoy this game. I think it's a good game. They've removed a lot of depth of dribbling, and I think they just need to revert it, but I don't think they will because it was in their marketing that they added finesse dribbling and this physical thing. I don't think they're going to backtrack on the two things they marketed to sell this new game. New game in quotation marks, by the way. New update.